President On, we are ready to begin. The live stream is on.
Great, thank you, Josie. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to this afternoon's Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, October 8th, 2020. The time now is 2:01. I am President Robert On, and I'll be chairing this meeting. The following commissioners have also joined this meeting virtually via Zoom. We have Vice President Mason, Commissioner Mercado, Commissioner Naro, and Commissioner Villa. DCR's Executive Director, Kat Packer, has also joined this meeting, along with other members of her department and the City Attorney's Office as well. I'm going to go over some housekeeping items at this point before we start the meeting. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being conducted virtually via Zoom and is being live streamed on DCR's website. For those of you who'd like to watch the live stream,
can I interrupt you for a minute?
Go ahead.
There is someone with the audio for the live stream. If they could put themselves on mute.
Let me know when I can proceed, please.
And let me make sure everyone's on mute. We may begin.
Thank you. I'm just going to take it a step back. We're just going to go over some housekeeping items before we begin. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being conducted virtually via Zoom and is being live streamed on DCR's website. For those of you who wish to watch the live stream, you can do so by visiting cannabis.lacity.org and clicking the About menu item at the top. Once there, you click the Commission Meetings link, scroll down to the bottom of the Commission's meeting page to find the live stream. Folks can also listen to this meeting by calling council phone at 213-621-2489 or 818-904-9450 and selecting the number for this meeting. You can also offer public comment by calling one of the two toll-free numbers as follows: 877-853-5257 or 888-475-4499. You can follow by entering meeting ID 860-838-7310. Once again, it's 860-838-7310. These numbers and the meeting agenda can also be found on the agenda for this meeting. Agendas for this meeting can be found on the department's website at cannabis.lacity.org and navigating to the commission page under the About menu. This meeting is being recorded. Therefore, we ask all of my fellow commissioners, department staff, and members of the public to please clearly state your name when you speak. The audio file will be posted online within 48 hours of this meeting. When the item you wish to speak on is called, press *9 to get on the speaking queue, and our executive assistant will call out each speaker by the last 4 digits of their phone number to identify the caller, and she will unmute each speaker. The speaker will hear that they have been unmuted on their end of the line. If there are no other items you wish to speak on, you may disconnect from this call and view the meeting via the live stream or dial council phone to listen only. We will be following the agenda order today. Today's presentation of the commission will be available on the department's website within 2 business days from this meeting. Today we'll consider general public comment and single or multiple agenda items together. Therefore, speakers will have 1 minute for general public comment and 1 minute per item with a maximum of 2 minutes for multiple items. We ask that speakers state whether they are providing general public comment and or which other item or items they wish to speak on before they comment, so that staff can appropriately time them. If the speaker does not specify which items they're speaking on, only 1 minute will be provided. Today, we're going to have a maximum of 1 hour of general comment, or single or multiple agenda items. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open general public comment and single or multiple agenda items. Speakers can address the commission on non-agenda related items, but they must be within the jurisdiction of the commission or provide public comment for items in today's agenda by dialing *9 on your telephone. Also, if you're listening on the live stream and have called to provide public comment, please mute the live stream audio before you begin speaking to eliminate feedback. Commissioners and staff, please make sure your mics are muted. And with that, let's begin. Ms. Trevizo, please call the first speaker.
If anyone wishes to provide public comment, please dial *9.
Okay.
Caller with phone number ending in 0567. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
This is Michael Federici from Sunlight Medical. I'd like to, for the 2 minutes, the public comment and PCN process.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
I would also like to request that I could submit documents to the city council for the PCN process to each city council member after I'm done speaking.
Sir, just to clarify, you're speaking before the Cannabis Commission, not the City Council. So to the extent you want to submit, yeah, if you want to submit to the Commission, you certainly can.
Okay, yes, fine. Okay, so, okay, I'd like to stop now. Sunlight, I'm Sunlight Medical. This is a Tier 1 social equity applicant for the cannabis retail license in Central City. Sunlight Medical has been servicing Central City since November of 2015 in both retail and delivery. With over 5 years without any violations, we're completely zoned, OSHA inspected, we pay taxes, and one of the top deliveries in the Los Angeles area. On September 3rd, 2019, at 10:13 a.m., Sunlight Medical filed for a retail license under the PCN process. At that time, Sunlight was advised by DCR in order to obtain more licensing in Central City, it would be imperative for me to get my councilman, Jose Cuizar's support. However, as it is well known, this would be impossible due to his arrest for bribery. This arrest puts into question every license out there in Central City, especially with the ex-mayor sitting on the board of directors of MedMen, which I believe was granted one of the last retail licenses available in Central City. There is only 5 in total. Sunlight Medical has jumped every hoop to file social equity and maintain zone property that we cannot keep unless granted a license. Sunlight Medical is already a social equity Tier 1 applicant. We have already overcome great obstacles just to be here now. Sunlight is begging the city council members to join in today and open up more licensing in Central City. Our District 14 council member is not available, so I am asking City Council and DCR to step in and review Sunlight's PCN application as a group and vote for more licensing. Unfortunately now, with the zoned areas in high demand, Sunlight Medical is now facing gouging by my landlords. They doubled the rent for October, even with COVID. They did so because people with approved licensing can move.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Your time's up.
Okay. Can I submit this to DCR after?
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to end in saying that I don't know where to reach out. We're at a stymie. I don't know what people in Central City can do. And if you could get some feedback on that. Thank you.
Next caller.
Caller with phone number ending in 5060. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Okay, hello. So we are one of the first 100 chosen for the round 3 phase 1
Excuse me, ma'am.
application. Yes,
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you please state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
sure. So my name is Jillian, and I wish to speak on the items regarding processing round 3 phase 1 applicants.
Thank you. You have 1 minute.
So we have paid our application fees on October 19th of last year. Since then, we have incurred significant financial damages during this very drawn-out application period. These delays have been expanded by us waiting for DCR to process the 100 additional applicants. At this point, we need to know what is the next step. Is the next step that DCR is going to give confirmation of local authorization, notify state agencies that compliance is underway? And if so, what is the deadline that this will be completed by? That's all. That's my statement.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with phone number ending in 0663. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Good afternoon. This is Jonathan Svetko. I'm the Executive Director of the United Cannabis Business Association. I've come here to ask for your support in an issue that we have recently identified with regards to the lack of any ownership limits on the delivery pipeline licenses.
Can you please state what items you're speaking on?
Hello?
Yes. What items are you speaking on so we can allocate your time?
Sir, are you there?
It looks like he might have dropped. Let me try the next caller. Caller with phone number ending in 3157. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sarah Armstrong, Director of Industry Affairs for Americans for Safe Access and Policy Chair for the Southern California Coalition. I'm speaking in public comment first, and then on item number 1, bullet point 4, which is future agenda requests.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, ma'am. Earlier this week, we sent all of you a letter, a joint letter, asking that you support and help us keep the Department of Cannabis Regulation safe, well-funded, and able to move forward. The city has many, many obligations right now relating to COVID, but unlike many city departments, the DCR is self-supporting and obtains much of the money that it uses for its programs via grants. Thus, it is not a drain on city coffers and should be exempted from any budget cuts or staff trimming. They are doing important work and they need to continue that work. So I hope you will support keeping this department as whole as possible. Secondly, we asked that the City Department of Cannabis Regulation consider including compassion programs as part of community benefits programs. Compassion programs provide free or low-cost cannabis only to medical cannabis patients, and those patients must prove that they are financially needy. Prior to the passage of Prop 64, the legacy operators in Los Angeles had these programs, each in proportion to their size and ability to give back to the community. I hope that the DCR will continue this honorable practice and allow compassion programs to be an automatic inclusion for any retailer who is
Thank you for your comment. Your time is up.
their community benefits plans. Thank you very much.
Caller with phone number ending in 6410, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Charles Lockett. I just want to speak on general item number 2.
Thank you. You have 1 minute.
Hi, thank you, Commission. I just want to speak on the behalf of the report regarding DCR's delivery. I just want a question that answered hopefully today in regards to if a property is needed for delivery. I'm a phase 3 round 1 applicant, and I've already been through the process of losing a property, waiting on this process to begin. So I hope that's not a requirement again. Also, it's not clear what fees are to be paid. So hopefully that'll be established as well. And the attachments and form needed for submission. Thank you.
Caller with phone number 1981, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on. Caller with phone number ending in 1981, you are unmuted. We will try him after. Next caller with phone number ending in 0663. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Sutko. I'm the Executive Director of United Cannabis Business Association. I'll be speaking on general public comment.
Thank you. You have 1 minute.
We applaud the Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation's recent notice to begin accepting applications for additional licensed cannabis activities. The City Council, DCR, and other stakeholders have collectively found wisdom in limiting the number of licenses held by any single entity. The DCR recently recommended updates adopted by the City Council on July 9th of 2020, in which one of the stated goals are improving processes to minimize predatory practices. The ordinance clarified the ownership limit for type 10 storefront retail to a limit of 3, medium indoor cultivation type 3A to a limit of 3, as well as management companies that were a variable limit over time. However, it seems to have overlooked the ownership limit for delivery type 9 non-storefront retail licenses, which are currently unlimited as to how many one individual could own. Ownership limits promote equitable distribution of licenses, preventing monopolies, promote the distribution of wealth amongst a larger population of licenses, promote the viability of small business operators to compete fairly in a nascent industry, and prevent predatory practices. We are asking for consideration that prior to the accepting of the license applications on October 20th, that this issue be resolved so that we can prevent any further challenges in the future going forward that would ultimately delay this process in general. Please take this into consideration. And again, we're asking for parity in license ownership limits across all license types, especially with delivery. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Caller with phone number ending in 0456, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Yes, my name is Alexis Brompton, and I would like to speak on item number 2.
Thank you. You have 1 minute.
Yes, due to the lengthy application processing delays, I have lost site control on my property. I've also been bled dry financially, so I would like to request that the DCR provide further guidance on how and when we will be able to sell our licenses to another social equity-backed applicant, as any other business would be able to do when they have run out of resources. Thank you, and that's it.
Caller with phone number ending in 7445, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Blake Terreri, and I'm calling in regards to general item number 2, specifically regarding processing of applications and what potential remedies there are should a dispute within the entity and the social equity applicant occur such that it's not solvable and it was due to a potentially predatory contract. Wanting to get some clarity on what the steps are for remedy. That's it.
Thank you. Caller with phone number ending in 7006, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
It's all motherfucking items, general public comment, number 1, number 2, and all that good shit. There, Ed, did I get my fucking time? Well, don't I get 2 motherfucking minutes if I'm on general and multi-item there, Mr. Ani on? Yeah!
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So here we are again, niggas. 2020 pandemic, y'all. People need their dope, need hope, and the only hope is to use your dope and pray that Donald Trump gets committed to an insane asylum. That's right. Now, Donald Trump has been medicated properly, but what about Angelino? How come I can't sell my dope? I used to have hope, boo. Now you got phase 1, phase 2, and everybody's broke, and everybody want to sell their licenses. Now they have to sell to the corporate-ist. What about the social equity motherfuckers? You all promised. It's like what motherfucker on Robert said when he ran for Congress. Elect me because I'm a do-nothing motherfucker, and that's why he's here doing nothing but sitting on his ass while everybody going broke. We need to immediately approve all dope licenses, waive all taxes on the dope, so that we can give hope to everybody that wants a little dope. And it's like Marvin Gaye said, the brother, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? A man is a jack-off. That's what's going on. What's going on? This commission ain't nothing but shit. That's what's going on. What's going on? That's right. You all fucking resign today. Put in anybody but yourself. Or give back the money you stole, the millions of dollars from everybody who was promised to feel it good.
Time is up. Caller with phone number ending in 1981, you are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Yeah, this is Rico Lamite from Cannabis.
Okay,
We are
which
a,
items would you like to speak on, sir?
I'd like to speak on the Type 9 licensing, and also the manufacturing piece as well.
Items on the agenda, please.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, can you repeat what items you're speaking on so I can allocate your time correctly?
Yes, I would like to speak on the general public comment, please.
Okay, thank you. You have 1 minute.
All right, thank you. My name is Rico Lamite, and I am from Cannabis. We're a decentralized media broadcast organization, and we also work with a lot of people in the community as well. And first thing, I would like to thank everybody for all the work that you've done here in Los Angeles. However, if this law goes forward as is, it's clearly listed as open for the delivery service. I've been in the tech industry for quite a while now, and this is a 100% power grab to take over the infrastructure. Logistics is absolutely everything. This is how Uber took over the world. So if that is open, we're opening up our doors, and this is the end of social equity as we know it. And if that happens, blood is on the hands of the city of Los Angeles. Everybody's watching Los Angeles as the rest of the nation, the rest of the world, and this has to be answered for. Absolutely unacceptable, and I'm ashamed to be from this city,
Thank you
to
for
be
your
part of
comment.
this
Your
city.
time is up.
Terrible.
If anyone wishes to make public comment, please remember to dial *9. Caller with phone number ending in 3447. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm calling regarding general. I guess it's under general.
Okay, well, you have 1 minute and please state your name.
Sarah Agbula, owner of Golden Bliss Brands. I'm a type 6 manufacturer. I am trying to find out why it is open for manufacturing. Those of us that are social equity with pending investors now no longer have to work with us. Not only did we have to go through 2 rounds of vetting, I got a building, lost the building, got another building. The state came down and said my building would not pass inspection. And I've been waiting to find out from DCR when I can get my next inspection. Now you're opening up for everybody, all the big boys to come in on manufacturing. You just shut me 2.5 years for nothing. Please, who's going to answer for that? I'm broke. And then now you're going to let everyone else come in. There was no protection for type 6 manufacturers at all. This is a money grab. You're broke and you need some money.
Thank you for your comment. Your time is up. Caller with phone number ending in ending in 1403. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Fuck y'all! Fuck you all! You all! Fuck you all! Trump! Trump! The asshole!
Josie, can you mute this caller?
Anyone that wishes to make public comment, please dial *9.
Let's go to the next caller.
I do not see anyone else that has not spoken.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, great. With that, I want to thank
I'm sorry, President On, I have one more.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Caller with phone number ending in 9621. You are unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Good afternoon. My name is Javier Montes. I am a small business owner, cannabis license holder, has been in the industry for 14 years. I'm also the vice chair of the United Cannabis Business Association. We submitted a letter today highlighting what we feel is an impact to the growth of new businesses coming online. As a small business and a small operator, we are highlighting the fact that there is no cap of ownership on delivery, which would dilute businesses that are coming online and make it more hard and more difficult for business owners like myself that are not heavily funded to operate a stable business. As we've seen with bigger infrastructure coming into cities and propping up Walmart-style businesses around small retail, these businesses that are smaller tend to go out of business. And if we are saying that we are going to have a successful social equity program with 200 new licenses, we're here to support them and to highlight these types of issues so that we can work together on figuring out a pathway to get these fixes changed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was that last caller?
I believe so. I don't see anyone else with a raised hand.
Okay, great. I want to thank everyone from the public for making your comments. Both the general public comment agenda item and the single or multiple agenda item periods are now closed. Before we go to the agenda items, I want to also just make another announcement about the live stream. You can watch live stream by going to the website cannabis.lacity.org, clicking on the About menu, and once there, click on the Commission Meetings link, which will then take you to the Commission Meetings page, and you can scroll down to find the live stream there. I think there's some folks that had some difficulty finding the live stream, so just making that clear. Let's move on to agenda item number 1. Commissioners, you should have received an advance calendar, which has our future meeting dates. Please take a look and advise if you have any planned absences. Anyone?
Commissioner Villa, no planned absences at this time.
Okay. Let's move on to the approval of minutes. You were sent minutes of September 10th, 2020 for review. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Commissioner Villa, I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Villa. Do I have a second?
Commissioner,
go ahead.
Commissioner Mason, I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Mason. Mr. Treviso, please take the roll.
Commissioner Villa, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Mason, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Mercado, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Naro, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner On, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is 5-0 and the motion passes.
Great. Thank you. Let's move on to item number 2, which is the Executive Director's Report. I know there's a lot of new updates. We're eager to hear from you, Ms. Packer, if you're ready.
I am Commission President On.
All right, let's hear it.
Thank you, President On. Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's great to see everyone. I apologize for the background noise. I'm downtown and there's some construction going on, and I imagine at some point in time there may be a siren, so please bear with me. I truly appreciate everyone's time and cooperation to make this special meeting happen today. Today's report will cover the status of the city's cannabis licensing and social equity program. It will include a summary of activities since the last meeting of the Cannabis Regulation Commission and updates on the following. Phase 1 and Phase 2 renewal application processing, Phase 3 retail round 1 application processing, Phase 3 delivery, distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, and testing application processing, and public convenience or necessity or PCN requests. This month, the department will reach significant milestones in our licensing program, many of which have been long awaited and highly anticipated. As such, before delving into specifics of the entire report, I'd like to quickly review some of the major events, both our challenges and accomplishments that we've experienced over the past year. This will help to contextualize today's updates on various license application processes. Throughout this presentation, my staff and I will do our best to denote when we are transitioning between slides. The timeline of our activities to date, kind of taking us back to September of 2019. We know that we started the Phase 3 retail round 1 process with its launch in September of 2019. The following month, it was announced that the City of Los Angeles was one of the recipients of a grant that was made available through the state of California. That grant was announced in October of 2019. In November, after concerns were raised by stakeholders around the Phase 3 retail round 1 application process, the mayor's office instructed the department to pause on further processing, and an audit was conducted. In December of 2019, the department began the development of what we consider to be our comprehensive ordinance amendments and related recommendations. Next slide. In March of this year, the Phase 3 retail round 1 audit report was transmitted to City Council, the Mayor's Office, and to DCR and the public. In April of this year, it was announced that the City of Los Angeles had been awarded a second grant from the state of California to support the development of our social equity program. And in June, we transmitted a series of reports with comprehensive policy recommendations after hearing and engaging with many different stakeholders and this body to try and streamline our licensing process and make tangible improvements to the city's social equity program. Next slide. Shortly thereafter, transmitting those reports with comprehensive policy recommendations, in July of this year, the City Council adopted the ordinance amendment. It's important to note that the grants that I had mentioned that had been awarded to the City of Los Angeles previously, we did not actually receive those monies into the city coffers until August of this year. So we're still in the process of working to put those resources to good use. And our social equity program director, Dr. Brown, will be sharing a little bit more information about that later. Last month, in September, we were able to publish a comprehensive redesign of our website. This, of course, has all new menus and pages, specifically has new information on the application resources and procedures that folks are going to need to move forward in the application process. And then I mentioned there are going to be significant milestones that we reach in our licensing program this month. This month, we will begin to accept applications from new applicants who are interested in delivery, distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, and testing. And we anticipate that this month we will also be able to conclude the Phase 3 retail round 1 process, having, pursuant to the ordinance, identified a total of 200 social equity applicants who are now eligible for further processing. And of course, we'll talk a little bit later about what all of that means. As shown in the illustration of this timeline, in the work that we've accomplished over the years. Members of the public, hopefully this body can see that we've been working diligently to create a robust licensing and social equity program. The information that my staff and team will share with you today intends to provide tangible next steps for folks who are engaged in the application process, existing applicants, and prospective applicants as well. Today's report will summarize current and upcoming licensing initiatives. Throughout the remainder of the presentation of this report, my team and I will address additional licensing updates as well as department updates since the last commission meeting. Again, we will do our best to transition between slides for those following along without video. I do want to note that later on in this presentation, there will be several videos that are shown. So I'm going to again ask staff to and commissioners to make sure that we're on mute so that we can hear these videos when we get to that part of our presentation. But I will now pass things over to Public Relations Specialist Raina Plummer, who will quickly review the topics that will be discussed today. Thank you.
Next slide. Thank you, Director Packer. Today's summary of DCR's activities to date will include information regarding the following: September 10th, 2020 CRC meeting recap, general administration updates, communications updates, social equity program updates, and licensing updates. Next. I will now continue with a summary of DCR's activities since the last meeting of the Cannabis Regulation Commission. Much has happened since the last commission meeting met back on September 10th. In addition to providing a summary of DCR activities, DCR shared new information, including, but not limited to, a preview and overview of the redesign of DCR's website, which contained information related to the public convenience or necessity, or PCN, process and associated forms, the pre-application review process, associated forms and required documents, the temporary approval application process, associated forms and required documents, and the business premises relocation process, associated forms and required documents. Since the September meeting, the department has advanced licensing application processes, worked to streamline and enhance our communication strategy, partnered with reputable organizations to develop robust opportunities for our social equity applicants, and made progress on various communications and policy efforts related to our licensing and social equity program. The Department of Cannabis Regulation is taking every precaution possible to prevent the spread of COVID-19. To help protect the health of our customers and staff, and in line with Mayor Garcetti's directives, DCR has implemented the following. Cannabis Regulation Commission meetings will be conducted virtually and telephonically until further notice. DCR's public service counter is currently closed. DCR licensing and information services are still available online at cannabis.lacity.org or by phone at 213-978-0738 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific. And DCR is piloting virtual inspections. We recognize that due to the virtual nature of our current reality, we must modify existing communication strategies and will be intentionally working to shift communications online. On Wednesday, September 16th, 2020, the department unveiled a redesigned website. The redesign simplifies and makes more accessible information related to the licensing program and social equity program. This website redesign is the first step in a series of communication strategy updates. The department is working diligently to develop tools and resources to assist members of the public. The website features a new menu bar and 6 main menus: about, laws and policy, licensing, social equity program, personal activity, and the complaint portal, as well as several new video tutorials. The department will continue to update the website as information becomes available for our licensing program and social equity program. And Vice President Mason, at the last commission meeting, you asked about our initiatives around community engagement and outreach. To this extent, DCR is developing a stakeholder meeting and community listening session initiative. These stakeholder meetings and community listening sessions are intended to assist DCR in developing programs and policies to better serve the community. The stakeholder meetings and community listening sessions seek to enlist engagement from a diverse group of thought leaders, community-based organizations, nonprofits, businesses, educators, and others to better inform DCR about policy programming development initiatives. DCR is in the process of contracting with a qualified consultant to administer the stakeholder meetings and community listening sessions. The department intends on launching this initiative by the end of 2020. The department will keep the public apprised of all of the progress on this initiative as it develops. I will now turn the presentation over to Social Equity Program Director, Dr. Imani Brown, to provide a summary of social equity program-related activities since the last commission meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. I hope that everyone is well. Today, I'd like to cover updates related to our social equity program. I'll begin with an update on our partnership with the Los Angeles County Bar Association as it relates to the social equity program and our applicants. The Los Angeles County Bar Association's Cannabis section, in partnership with DCR, has created a pro bono legal assistance program which operates through the Los Angeles County Bar Association's Smart Law Referral Service for Phase 3 social equity applicants. This initiative is sponsored by the Los Angeles County Bar Association and the Los Angeles County Bar Association's Cannabis section, in concert with the City of Los Angeles, the social equity community of Los Angeles, and Smart Law. The objective here is to provide socially conscious, limited pro bono legal resources to cannabis business communities that are underserved and underrepresented. The Bar Association.
I'm sorry, Dr. Brown?
Yes.
I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you speak up into the mic?
Is this better?
Yes, it's a little bit better,
Okay.
yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
The Bar Association is currently working to develop programming beginning with the recruitment of qualified legal professionals. Interested attorneys should look at the LA County Bar Association's Smart Law website. DCR will follow up to provide additional information for interested applicants as available. Next slide. A few updates to the California Local Equity Grant and the Cannabis Equity Grants Program for local jurisdictions. First, I think it's important to note that the City of Los Angeles has participated in 2 solicitation processes in which we were awarded funds to support the social equity program by the state of California. One was the California Local Equity Grant Program. This grant was authorized through the California Cannabis Equity Act of 2018. It was established by Senate Bill 1294 and the Budget Act of 2019 and administered through the Bureau of Cannabis Control, or the BCC. Second solicitation was the Cannabis Equity Grants Program for local jurisdictions. This was authorized by AB 97 and administered through the Governor's Office of Economic Development, or GOBIZ. DCR was awarded a total of $7.8 million from both grants. Although resolutions were signed in April and May of 2020 respectively, funding was not received until July and August of 2020. DCR has a little less than 1 year to expend the resources in accordance with the grant requirements and grant agreements. Resources will be used to provide equity applicants and licensees with startup and ongoing costs for leases, equipment, capital improvements, workforce development, technical assistance, etc. DCR is currently working to use those resources to develop and support programming available through our social equity program. As part of the grant terms, DCR is required to collect and share certain data. The most recent legislative report can be found on the BCC website. which contains certain collected demographic information from applicants and licensees. As part of the CEG terms and conditions, DCR is required to submit quarterly reports in order to comply with eligible uses of the grant and to document its progress. DCR submitted its quarterly report on September 30th. Next slide. A few updates on the financial grant program. The department recognizes that capital is a barrier to many social equity applicants. As such, we are working on initiatives to provide applicants direct financial support with the resources we currently have available. DCR is dedicating $5 million from the previously mentioned funding sources to social equity applicants for a financial grant program. This is a new program, which was first recommended by the department and adopted by City Council. DCR is working to establish requirements to participate in the financial grant program, which will be published in the department's rules and regs. DCR is in the process of contracting with a qualified consultant to administer the financial grant program. The department plans to launch the financial grant program by the end of 2020. Assistant Executive Director Jason Kylene will provide a summary of licensing related activities since the last meeting of the Cannabis Regulation Commission. Thank you. Jason, Lee.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jason Kleen, Assistant Executive Director for the Department of Cannabis Regulation. At this time, I will share the department's licensing numbers. Currently, 418 commercial cannabis businesses are authorized to operate within the city. Currently, there's 184 Phase 1 businesses with temporary approval, 222 Phase 2 businesses with temporary approval, and 12 testing laboratories with temporary approval. Next slide. DCR has developed several tutorial videos to help licensees and applicants. These videos will show prospective and current applicants as well as licensees the various licensing processes, related forms, and documents. DCR will present a number of videos over the next several slides to be previewed during today's Executive Director's Report. These videos are also available at cannabis.lacity.org. All of the videos on the website are for informational purposes only and may be updated from time to time as information becomes available. Throughout today's presentation, we will share several of these videos, then continue along the agenda to discuss how these procedures are relevant to our existing and upcoming licensing application processes. At this time, I would like to share a video on the 2021 renewal process. Next slide. In this video, I will demonstrate how to submit a renewal application to the Department of Cannabis Regulation. I strongly encourage all licensees to complete the contact types for Excel records worksheet located on the DCR website prior to starting a renewal application. Please also review all pertinent renewal information that is posted on the website before you begin this process. Once you've completed the contact type worksheet and reviewed the information, please navigate to the LADCR Excel portal. Enter your username, password, and click on the I'm not a robot CAPTCHA. You may be asked to select from a variety of images in order to log into the system. Once you have logged into the system, please navigate to My Records. On the My Records tab, you will see a list of all of the records associated with your user profile. In order for a record to be eligible for renewal, it must have a status of eligible for renewal. To quickly find your applications that are eligible for renewal, please scroll down and look for applications with the status of eligible for renewal. You will also be presented with a renew or petition action under the Action tab. click on the Renew in order to proceed with your renewal application. Much of the information from your existing application will be pulled into your renewal application. On the first page of the renewal application, you will have to select your business organizational structure from a drop-down menu. The second question you'll have to complete is, are you submitting a modification request with your temporary license renewal application? The default response is no. If it stays no, you will not be asked to upload a modification request cover sheet. If you select yes, you will be required to upload a modification request cover sheet as part of your renewal application. Once you've completed these two fields, please click Continue. On the second screen, you will be presented with a list of activities that are associated with your record. You're allowed to unselect and choose not to renew an activity for calendar year 2021 as part of the renewal process. However, you may not add additional activities as part of the renewal process. If you would like to add additional activities to your record, you may submit an application when general licensing opens. If you choose not to renew an application for calendar year 2021, please uncheck that activity on your renewal activity confirmation page. When you've completed your review of your licensed activities, as well as made your selections for which activities you would like to renew, please click Continue. Because I answered yes to the modification request question, I'm being asked to submit my modification request form. The modification request forms can be found on the DCR website. For the 2021 renewal application, you just need to complete the application modification cover sheet. DCR staff will review your modification request in the back office once you've submitted and paid your fees, and we will instruct you on what the next steps were to complete your modification request. In order to add a document, click on Add, select the document you would like to upload, click Open, and the document will be attached to your renewal record. If for some reason you select the wrong document, you can navigate back to Add, select the correct document, and that document will be uploaded. The incorrect document will not be added to the record. Once the document has been successfully uploaded, you will see a green check mark as well as a message saying that your document has been successfully uploaded. Now you can continue to the next screen. On this screen, you will have the opportunity to update the contacts that are associated with the record. In order to add a contact, you can either select from account, which will pull in the user's user account information for the user account that is actively engaged in the renewal application process, or you can choose to look up a Excel reference identification number to add that user to the record. Prior to moving on from this page, you must resolve any action items which are indicated by a triangle exclamation point, or you will receive an error message. At this time, I will try to continue off this page without adding the required contacts. As you can see, you will get an error message, and then you will be told what action items or contacts have to be added to the record in order to move on to the next screen. At this point, in reviewing the contact types, I've noticed that there's not an owner associated with this record, nor is there a business entity, and the system is telling me that I need to add a neighborhood liaison as well as a person in charge. I need to add those 4 contact types in order to move on to the next page. Licensees are allowed to add more than those 4 basic contacts. At this point, DCR will review that information once it has been submitted. In order to edit an existing contact on the record, you can go to the action item and you can either edit and identify what that contact type is, Person in charge is a required contact type, so I will select that for this record contact type. Because it's an existing contact, it already has a mailing address associated with the user contact. You can go ahead and click continue. On the next contact, I'm going to go ahead and edit it and change this contact to a social equity owner. Again, because it's an existing contact, a mailing address is already associated with this contact. However, any owner or social equity owner added as a contact to a record must have a corresponding ownership percentage. For contacts that are already on the record that have this information completed, you will not be allowed to modify and or change the ownership percentage. However, if this field is blank because a new owner is being added, you will be asked to put in the corresponding ownership percentage. Any owners that are added as part of the renewal process that are not currently listed on the 2020 license must be added as part of a modification process, and you will be required to submit an ownership change modification form. Once you've completed the ownership percentage, you can click continue. Now I'm going to just demonstrate the select from account and lookup functionality. As I mentioned, when you click select from account, it will populate the information with the user account that is logged in and processing the renewal application. Because I need to add a neighborhood liaison, I'm going to go ahead and select it from the existing user account. Because this is not an existing contact type on the record, you must select a mailing address for the contact. The mailing addresses will be associated with that user's contact profile. If a user has more than one mailing address on their contact profile, you will have to choose the correct mailing address. Once you've selected a mailing address, click continue. I'm going to go ahead and click continue, even though there's not a business entity contact type, just to demonstrate that you will receive an error message if you do not have a contact type associated with the business entity. An error has occurred. Business entity contact is required. For the business entity, for sole proprietorships or partnerships, the sole proprietor or one of the partners may be selected and their user profile may be used as the business entity profile. For LLCs and corporations, the business entity must have its own user profile. Please refer to the video of how to create a new Excella user profile in order to find out how to create a user profile for your business entity if you haven't already done so. If your user entity already has a corresponding Excella user profile, you can click lookup and it will ask you what type of contact you're looking up. In this case, I'm looking up an organizational contact, and I've already completed my worksheet, so I know what the reference contact identification number is for the organization. So I'm going to enter it into this box. Once you've entered the Excella reference ID number, click lookup. If it finds a contact associated with that identification number, it will allow you to select the contact type from the drop-down menu, and it will allow you to select a mailing address. It will not present you with any of that user's information. Please make sure that you enter the correct Excella reference contact ID numbers as part of this process. Now I have all of the required contact types. I have at least one owner on the record, and I have a profile associated with the business entity on the record. So I will be able to continue from this page. Users can perform more than one contact function for the record. As you can see here, the DCR licensing account is the social equity owner, and they're also the neighborhood liaison. There is no limit on how many contact types a specific user profile can be associated with on a record. And through this process, you will also have the opportunity to identify any consultants, law firms, management companies, or other businesses that are affiliated with this record and may be assisting you with your license compliance and/or renewal process. Any contact that will be added to the record does have to have its own unique user profile. So if your management company, law firm, or consultant has not already completed an Excella user profile, I do recommend that they do so expeditiously so that you can add them to this record as part of your renewal process. Once you've completed adding all of your contacts, please click continue. The next page is a summary of the information that you've input as part of the renewal process. Please review this information carefully because you will not be able to edit it once you submit your application. If you find that there's any items that you need to edit, you can either save and resume later. If you save and resume later, you will be assigned the temporary record ID that is created when you start your renewal application, and you will be able to navigate back to this once you've got the information that you need to complete. Or if there's a specific part of the form that needs to be updated, you can click on edit under that and it will navigate you back to that page, and then you can update the information on that page. At this time, there's no information that I need to edit, so I will click continue. This process may take a significant period of time depending on how many activities you're currently authorized for. As part of the 2021 renewal process, we are creating a new parent record for the business premises address, and we are creating separate records for each of your authorized commercial cannabis activities. When you've completed the process, you will see a message that says your application has been successfully submitted, and you will see a new record number. Please notate this new record number because it will be the record number for your 2021 renewal application. For phase 1 applicants, your number sequence will start with a 1 that indicates that it's a phase 1 business. For phase 2 businesses, your number sequence will start with a 2 and indicate that you are a phase 2 business. From here, I recommend everybody navigate back to the home screen and then navigate back to My Records. And then as mentioned, the record has a new identification number. The parent record, which is associated with the business premises address, will show no letter as part of the app suffix. However, for any of the individual activities, you will see a letter prior to the application suffix. So for here, you can see that this is the record associated with the retail storefront license. What our 2021 licensees will be able to do is they will be able to start making modification requests for individual activities. When the relocation process reopens, licensees will be able to request to relocate one or more of their licenses to a different business premises address and maintain other licenses at their current business premises address. Information associated with the relocation process will be made available in the near future. For businesses that have more than one activity, you will see your parent record, and then you will see the corresponding record for each of the child activities associated with that business premises. Again, folks will have the opportunity to request relocations for one or more commercial cannabis activity at a later date. However, each of the individual licenses will be treated as unique licenses, and modification requests may be submitted for individual activities in the near future. Cultivation licenses will have a letter C before application. Distribution transport only will be represented by a D. Non-volatile manufacturing will be represented by M, and retail storefront will be represented by R. Those are the 4 most common commercial cannabis activity types that phase 1 and phase 2 businesses have been authorized for. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have any questions, please contact the Department of Cannabis Regulation.
department initiated the 2021 license renewal process on September 2nd, 2020, and the renewal period will remain open through November 2nd, 2020. Commercial cannabis businesses with temporary approval are able to access their existing Excel records to submit certain types of modification requests, update contacts on their license record, and submit their 2021 license renewal application. Businesses seeking to bifurcate their licenses will need to first submit their 2021 license renewal application. Upon submission, new Excel record numbers will be issued for each unique commercial cannabis activity. Licensees seeking to relocate one or more activities to a new business premises address will have an opportunity to submit those relocation requests after their 2021 license renewal applications are submitted and all applicable fees are paid. Eligible businesses that have not submitted a 2021 renewal application by October 10th, 2020 will be invoiced based on existing activities on the record. 2021 renewal applications and all corresponding payments must be received on or before November 2nd, 2020. If a 2021 renewal application and or renewal fees are not paid by the November 2nd, 2020 deadline, the 2020 license will expire on December 31st, 2020 after 11:59 p.m. and the applicant will have to submit a new application prior to being able to engage in commercial cannabis activity within the city. Lastly, businesses must be current on all city taxes through September 30th, 2020 to receive their 2021 renewal licenses. Businesses that are not in good standing with the Office of Finance through September 30th will have their 2021 license renewal applications denied. Existing applicants will be able to submit certain types of modification requests and update contacts through the DCR's licensing portal later this year. Additional information will be released later this month regarding that process. This concludes information related to the 2021 renewal process. Next slide. Before moving into specific information related to the Phase 3 Retail Round 1 application process and Phase 3 Delivery, Distribution, Non-Volatile Manufacturing, and Testing application process, I will first start by showing you two tutorial videos that contain relevant information for both groups of applicants. If you are a Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicant determined eligible for further processing, these videos will be important to you because they will cover the temporary approval process. As will be discussed in further detail later, due to recent ordinance amendments recommended by DCR, Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants determined eligible for further processing are now authorized to apply for temporary approval through the temporary approval process. Whereas before the ordinance was amended, applicants determined eligible for further processing were required to progress through the annual licensing process. The video tutorial regarding pre-application review will also be relevant to Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants determined eligible for processing pursuant to Municipal Code Section 104.06.1B7. Please note that while Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants do not have to go through the entire process as described in the pre-application review video tutorial, there are certain documents and forms referenced in the pre-application review video that these applicants must provide before receiving temporary approval. Again, more detailed information will be provided later in this presentation. If you are a prospective applicant and interested in submitting an application for Phase 3 Delivery, Distribution, Non-Volatile Manufacturing, or Testing, the following videos will be important to you as well. All new applicants are required to complete the pre-application review process before progressing through the temporary approval process. As such, please pay close attention to the following video tutorials. Next slide, please. We will first review the video tutorial regarding the pre-application review process.
The Department of Cannabis Regulation, also known as DCR, is transforming its website into a more user-friendly online information and resource center. We have comprehensively redesigned our website to streamline, simplify, and make more accessible information related to licensing and the social equity program. This video tutorial will provide prospective applicants information regarding the pre-application review procedure and show how to navigate through our website to find related information. This video will show new processes, procedures, forms, and resources that the department will publish to the website as available. The forms shown can all be filled in digitally. In addition, these forms and documents are intended for use in DCR's licensing portal. Please do not submit official documents via email. DCR may accept electronic signatures on forms unless the form specifically requires a notarized signature. Please download the materials included on the website as you move through the application process. These documents are intended to guide you through the application process. Regardless of whether you use the bulletins, the department encourages you to conduct your own due diligence and research or seek legal counsel if you need additional assistance. Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 104.03A requires that prior to filing an application to engage in commercial cannabis activity, an applicant must successfully complete the pre-application review process. DCR has developed resources related to the pre-application review process to assist applicants and licensees in the application process and to increase transparency into DCR's administration of the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance. To begin this process, visit our redesigned website at cannabis.lacity.org. You will notice our new menu bar at the top of our website. Here, click on the licensing menu and select Application Procedures and Resources. This page contains all of the information needed to go through the various licensing application processes. Let's review the pre-application review process. First, click on the pre-application review link at the top of this page. Under the pre-application review section's general information, we have included background information and relevant Los Angeles Municipal Code sections. The pre-application review process requires that the Department of Cannabis Regulation verify eligibility of primary personnel subject to a background review pursuant to LAMC Section 104.03A1 and verify that owners applying for the license are not disqualified under LAMC Section 104.03A2. Please note that until LiveScan is available, DCR will accept attestations regarding compliance with LAMC Section 104.03A1. In addition, DCR must also verify that the business premises location is eligible for licensure under LAMC Section 104.03A3. Now, we will review the pre-application review information and procedure bulletin. The information included in this bulletin, in conjunction with the pre-application review workflow, provides general information, procedures, and requirements for an applicant to submit a pre-application review request. The bulletin includes relevant information in LAMC code sections, links to forms associated with the pre-application review procedure, information on documents required, applicable definitions and terminology, and instructions for the pre-application review process. The bulletin also outlines various responsibilities of applicants and the department. The applicant's responsibilities include submit a pre-application review request via ASELA, pay the pre-application review fee within 10 days of the invoice issuance, review any zoning requirements and sensitive use restrictions which may apply to the parcel associated with the commercial cannabis activity license application, complete and upload a list of primary personnel and owner or owners associated with the application, submit required attestations for each individual identified as a primary personnel or owner. DCR's actions in the pre-application review process include issue an invoice for the pre-application review fee, verify compliance of the business premises location with the zoning requirements and sensitive use restrictions, request and review attestations from primary personnel and owner or owners associated with the application, and issue a determination of eligibility or ineligibility for further processing. There are multiple forms associated with the pre-application review procedure. These forms include list of primary personnel and owners, primary personnel and owner attestation, ownership and financial interest disclosure form, and the radius map attestation. The forms shown can all be filled in digitally. In addition, these forms and documents are intended for use in DCR's licensing portal. In addition to the forms listed, applicants will need the following documents for the pre-application review process: the business premises diagram, a dated radius map, and the site plan. The instructions for the pre-application review process references key terms that are defined in LAMC section 104.01A. The department has included these definitions in the bulletin for ease of access to members of the public. The definitions and terminology included in the bulletin are applicant, owner, and primary personnel. We will review the definitions and terminology now. First, let's define applicant. An applicant is defined as a person applying for a city license where a person is any individual, firm, partnership, joint venture, association, corporation, limited liability company, estate, trust, business trust, receiver, syndicate, or any other group or combination acting as a unit, and the plural as well as the singular. Next, let's define owner. An owner is defined as a person with an aggregate ownership interest of 20% or more in the person applying for a license or a licensee, unless the interest is solely a security, lien, or encumbrance. The chief executive officer of a nonprofit or other entity, a member of the board of directors of a nonprofit, an individual who will be participating in the direction, control, or management of the person applying for a license. Lastly, let's define primary personnel. Primary personnel are defined as any of the following: a natural person with any aggregate ownership interest of 20% or more in the person applying for a license or a licensee, unless the interest is solely a security, lien, or encumbrance. The chief executive officer, managing member or members, or a general partner of a nonprofit or other entity seeking licensure, or the chief executive officer, managing member or members, or a general partner of any person with any aggregate ownership interest of 20% or more in the person seeking licensure. These definitions will be helpful in completing the pre-application review procedure. Now, let's review the instructions for the pre-application review process. The first step of the process is for applicants to submit a pre-application review request via DCR's online licensing portal, which is the Acela Citizen Access Portal, or Acela ACA Portal. To get to this website, visit aca.acela.com/LADCR. For assistance on using the Acela ACA portal, visit our website under licensing, click apply for a license, and visit this page. This page includes video tutorials to assist applicants through the various application submittal and renewal processes. If the location of the business premises is located in a community plan area that has reached undue concentration, the applicant will be required to enter the council file associated with the city council approval of a PCN request. Any business located in an area of undue concentration must go through the PCN process and receive a finding of public convenience or necessity from City Council prior to submitting a pre-application review request. If the location of the business premises is in a community plan area that has not reached undue concentration, applicants will be allowed to submit the application without an associated council file number. Once the pre-application review request is submitted via Acela, an invoice will be generated for the pre-application review fee. The applicant will receive a notification by email from DCR licensing at lacity.org when the invoice is generated. This invoice must be paid within 10 days of issuance. The invoice will be located in the document section of the Acela application record. Payments must be submitted to the Office of Finance. Please visit the Office of Finance website at finance.lacity.org for more information related to their hours, locations, and payment methods. Again, it is the responsibility of the applicant to pay the pre-application review fee within 10 days of the invoice issuance. After DCR confirms timely payment of the pre-application review fee, the department will verify compliance of the business premises location with zoning requirements and sensitive use restrictions. If the location does not comply with zoning requirements or sensitive use restrictions, the application is not eligible for further processing. The applicant may submit a new pre-application review request for another location via Acela, subject to a new pre-application review fee. Applicants may use the city's ZMIS or neighborhood info tools to assist with their research. It is the responsibility of the applicant to review any zoning requirements and sensitive use restrictions which may apply to the parcel associated with the commercial cannabis activity license application. Once DCR verifies compliance of the business premises with zoning requirements and sensitive use restrictions, applicants will be asked to submit the primary personnel and owner or owner's form. A link to the form is included in the pre-application review information and procedure bulletin. The form is also located under the licensing menu, licensing information submenu, application forms and documents page. This is the primary personnel and owner/owner's form. On this form, please provide the names and positions of all primary personnel and owners associated with the applicant entity seeking licensure. Check the applicable boxes to identify if the individual is primary personnel, owner, or both. The definition of primary personnel and owner, as defined by the Los Angeles Municipal Code, are also included on the form. Once completed, this form will be submitted via the Acela record associated with the application. End. Along with the primary personnel and owner form, applicants will need to upload signed attestations for each primary personnel or owner associated with the application to the Acela record associated with the application. Please note that until LiveScan is available, DCR will accept attestations regarding compliance with LAMC Section 104.03A1. The attestation form is linked in the Information and Procedure Bulletin and located on the website. The attestation form is intended to support compliance with LAMC Section 104.03A, which sets forth prohibitions on primary personnel and owners if they have been convicted of certain criminal offenses, among other restrictions. The definitions below should be reviewed carefully to ensure that all required primary personnel and owners are included in the primary personnel and owner form. These restrictions apply to all primary personnel and owners, including those who are verified Tier 1 or Tier 2 social equity applicants. Again, this is the primary personnel and owners attestation form. Please carefully review the definitions for primary personnel and owner and make sure you understand the relevant restrictions. These restrictions apply to all primary personnel and owners, including those who are verified Tier 1 or Tier 2 social equity applicants. These restrictions can also be found in the Los Angeles Municipal Code and are also listed on the attestation form. Please note, all primary personnel and owners will be required to complete a LiveScan criminal history background check when directed by DCR. A material misrepresentation or false statement on this form
or a failure to knowingly disclose a material fact is grounds for denial of a license. The applicant may be permitted to amend their application to remove any disqualified owner or primary personnel unless that person is the social equity individual applicant who is an owner on an application subject to processing under section 104.06.1. Any amendments are subject to payment of the applicable modification fees. This form attests that the applicant is eligible for licensure under the requirements of Los Angeles Municipal Code section 104.03A concerning criminal convictions and other prohibitions listed on the attestation form. By signing, the applicant understands that the submission of false or misleading information may result in denial of this application. The applicant declares, under the penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California, that the information contained in the form and any attachments are true and correct to the best of the applicant's knowledge, and that the applicant has the authority to make the attestations contained within this form related to the property listed. This attestation form must be notarized when being submitted via the Acela ACA portal. A notary public or other officer completing this certificate must verify only the identity of the individual who signed the document to which the certificate is attached, and not the truthfulness, accuracy, or validity of the document. Along with the primary personnel and owner attestation form, applicants will be required to submit an ownership and financial interest form, a radius map attestation, business premises diagram, dated radius map, and site plan. These forms can be accessed through the Information and Procedure Bulletin, as well as on the website's Documents and Forms page. Let's navigate to that page now. Go to Licensing, and then click Application Forms and Documents. Pre-application review forms and documents. After all forms and documents have been submitted, the department will verify that each individual identified as primary personnel and or owner submitted the primary personnel and owner attestation form. Finally, after all required attestations have been received and verified, DCR will issue a determination of eligibility for further processing and invoice the applicant for the temporary approval application fee, if applicable. This will allow applicants to move forward with a temporary approval procedure. This concludes our video on the pre-application review process. The department will continue to update the website with video tutorials and additional information as available. Please regularly check the website for the latest information. In addition, sign up for our email alert updates by visiting the About menu on the website.
Now that we have concluded our review, of the video tutorial regarding the pre-application review process, we will review the video tutorial regarding the temporary approval application process. Next slide, please.
The Department of Cannabis Regulation, also known as DCR, is transforming its website into a more user-friendly online information and resource center. We have comprehensively redesigned our website to streamline, simplify, and make more accessible information related to licensing and the social equity program. This video tutorial will provide prospective applicants information regarding the temporary approval workflow and procedure, and show how to navigate through our website to find the related information. This video will show new processes, procedures, forms, and resources that the department will publish to the website as available. The forms shown in this video tutorial can be completed online and must be submitted via DCR's licensing portal. Please do not submit any documents via email. DCR may accept electronic signatures on forms unless the form specifically requires a notarized signature. Please download the materials on the website as you move through this application process. These documents are intended to guide you through the application process. Regardless of whether you use the bulletins, the department encourages you to conduct your own due diligence and research or seek legal counsel if you need additional assistance. An applicant with temporary approval is required to follow all applicable rules and regulations as would be required if the applicant held a non-temporary license of the same type. DCR has developed resources related to the temporary approval process to assist applicants and licensees in the application process and to increase transparency into DCR's administration of the Cannabis Procedures Ordinance. The temporary approval workflow, which we will show what happens after completion of the pre-application review procedure. Now, let's review the temporary approval process. To begin this process, visit our redesigned website at cannabis.lacity.org. Here, click on the licensing menu and select Applications, Procedures, and Resources. This page contains all of the information needed to go through the various licensing application processes. Now, click on the temporary approval link at the top of the page. Under the temporary approval section's general information, we have included definitions and relevant Los Angeles Municipal Code sections. Los Angeles Municipal Code section 104.01A47 defines temporary approval as a DCR-issued temporary license that authorizes an applicant to engage in commercial cannabis activity for a limited period of time as would be permitted under the privileges of a non-temporary license of the same type. An applicant with temporary approval is required to follow all applicable rules and regulations as would be required if the applicant held a non-temporary license of the same type. Under the general information, the department has included the process workflow, as well as links to the information bulletin. We've also included links to the forms associated with this specific process. The bulletin and forms are also located under the licensing menu's Application Forms and Documents page. Scroll to the top of the page, hover over Licensing, click Application Forms and Documents, and select Temporary Approval Forms and Documents. The Information and Procedure Bulletin also provides links to all of the forms and documents that are required to be submitted to DCR with step-by-step instructions. This is the Temporary Approval Procedure Information and Procedure Bulletin. The information included in this bulletin, in conjunction with the temporary approval workflow, provides general information, procedures, and requirements for applicants seeking temporary approval to engage in a commercial cannabis activity. In order to begin the temporary approval process, an applicant must first go through the pre-application review process and obtain a determination of eligibility from DCR. Now, we will review the Temporary Approval Information and Procedure Bulletin. It includes all the relevant information related to the process, including the applicable LAMC code sections, links to forms associated with the temporary approval process, the documents required, a summary of the licensing process, and instructions for the temporary approval process. The bulletin also outlines the various responsibilities of applicants and the department. The applicant's responsibilities include, after receiving a determination of eligibility from DCR, upload the temporary approval application information and, if applicable, follow the procedures in the Social Equity Program Entity Verification Information and Procedure Bulletin. Pay the temporary approval application fee. Pay additional fees, if any, for DCR to review documents that must be resubmitted. Obtain authorization from the applicable state licensing authority to conduct the commercial cannabis activity or activities. Prepare for and schedule the initial inspection with DCR. Prepare for the LAFD inspection. Resolve any deficiencies which may be discovered during an inspection and/or schedule a follow-up inspection, and pay the standard inspection fee if any additional inspection is necessary by DCR. DCR's actions in the temporary approval process include issue the invoice for the temporary approval application fee and any other fees associated with additional document review or additional inspection fees if applicable. Review application for completeness and communicate any deficiencies to the applicant for resubmittal. Perform the initial inspection and communicate any deficiencies to the applicant in writing. Communicate with LAFD regarding inspection. Verify local authorization with the applicable state licensing authority, and grant or deny temporary approval authorization. There are multiple forms associated with the temporary approval process. Some of these forms are DCR specific, and some of the forms listed are developed by other agencies. The DCR forms listed in the bulletin are linked within the bulletin and can be filled in digitally. Forms associated with other agencies are linked to that agency's website. The forms associated with the temporary approval process include financial information form, indemnification agreement, labor peace agreement, landowner attestation, ownership and financial interest holder form, radius map attestation, statement of intended use, security plan, temporary approval attestation, and social equity program owner compliance attestation. In addition to the forms listed, applicants will need the following documents for temporary approval: business formation and organization documents, equity share documents, business premises diagram, business tax registration certificate, certificate of occupancy, dated radius map, executed lease agreement or property deed, and site plan. Some of the documents mentioned are required during the pre-application review process and do not need to be resubmitted during the temporary approval process unless the applicant wishes to revise or update the document, subject to any applicable modification fee. These documents are noted in this information and procedure bulletin. In addition, applicants and licensees subject to section 104.20 shall also provide all information, business records, and agreements necessary to demonstrate that the social equity individual applicant owns the minimum equity share required under section 104.20A2. Right now, we will give a general overview of the temporary approval process, followed by in-depth instructions on completing the temporary approval process. The Department of Cannabis Regulation may, at its discretion, issue a temporary approval to engage in commercial cannabis activity under LAMC section 104.06D at a business premises location, provided that the applicant, 1, successfully completes pre-application review per LAMC section 104.03A. For additional information, please view Information and Procedure Bulletin number LIC 4002 IPB, the Pre-Application Review Information and Procedure Bulletin. Number 2, submits all required information via SLA. This includes documents, forms, attestations, and information in SLA. 3, pays the temporary approval application fee for each commercial cannabis activity. 4, receives authorization to engage in the same commercial cannabis activities from the state. 5, passes the initial inspection for the business premises. And 6, passes an inspection conducted by the Los Angeles Fire Department Cannabis Unit to ensure that there are no fire or life safety inspections at the business premises. Now, let's review the entire instructions for the temporary approval process. The first step of the process is for the applicant to successfully complete the pre-application review process and receive a determination of eligibility from DCR. The department has included a video on the pre-application review process on the website. It can be found on the Apply for a License page on the website under the Licensing menu. After receiving a determination of eligibility from the department, applicants will log into their Acela account to upload the required forms and documents. To access Acela, visit aca.acela.com/LADCR. For additional assistance on using the Acela ACA portal, visit our Apply for a License page on the website for video tutorials. As stated previously, some of the information that must be uploaded was required during the pre-application review process and does not need to be uploaded again unless the information contained in those documents needs to be updated. Along with the associated forms and documents, if applicable, applicants should follow the instructions in the Social Equity Program Entity Verification Information and Procedure Bulletin. For additional information on Social Equity Program Entity Verification, please click on this link. It is also located on the website under the Forms and Documents page. Let's continue along the process. Once the complete temporary approval request is submitted via Acela, an invoice will be generated for the temporary approval application fee. The applicant will receive a notification by email from DCR Licensing at lacity.org when the invoice is generated. This invoice must be paid within 10 days of issuance. The invoice will be located in the Documents section of the Acela application record. Payments must be submitted to the Office of Finance. Please visit the Office of Finance website at finance.lacity.org for information related to their hours, locations, and payment methods. Again, it is the responsibility of the applicant to pay the temporary approval application fee within 10 days of the invoice issuance. After DCR confirms timely payment of the temporary approval application fee, the department will review the application for completeness and communicate any deficiencies to the applicant. If an applicant uploads additional required information for review, an invoice for the additional review and/or modification fee will be issued by DCR. Please note, it is strongly recommended that the applicant verify the occupancy or use of the business premises with the Department of Building and Safety early in the process. If the Department of Building and Safety determines that a permit is required to change the use of the business premises, the process may take several months to complete. Additionally, cultivation and manufacturing commercial cannabis activities may require a permit from the Los Angeles Fire Department. Please contact the Fire Development Services Unit to assess whether a permit is required. To contact the Fire Development Services Unit, visit their website at www.la.org/cannabis. When DCR verifies that all the information is complete, DCR will contact the appropriate state agency or agencies to verify that local compliance is underway. It is the responsibility of the applicant to obtain authorization from the applicable state licensing authority to conduct the commercial cannabis activity or activities. For purposes of determining whether an applicant has local authorization, state licensing authorities provide the following options. First is in compliance, meaning the local jurisdiction has determined that the applicant is compliant with local ordinances and regulations and that the applicant is authorized to engage in the requested commercial cannabis activity. The next is local compliance underway, meaning the local jurisdiction is working with the applicant entity and the local authority authorizes the applicant entity to continue through the state licensing processes. Lastly is not in compliance, meaning the local jurisdiction has determined that the applicant entity is not in compliance with local ordinances and regulations. DCR will reply, local compliance underway to associated agencies when it determines that temporary approval documents are complete. The next step in the temporary approval process is for applicants to prepare for the virtual initial inspection. Applicants should review the virtual initial inspection checklist in preparation of the initial inspection and correct any deficiencies before DCR inspects the business premises. It is the responsibility of the applicant to prepare for and schedule the initial inspection with DCR. The initial inspection checklist is included on the website under application forms and documents, as well as in the information and procedure bulletin. Click here. Here is the initial inspection checklist. Once the business premises is prepared for the initial inspection, applicants must request an initial inspection by emailing dcrlicensing@lacity.org with the subject line, request for initial inspection, and include the application number. DCR will contact the applicant to schedule a date and time for the inspection. DCR will conduct the initial inspection utilizing the aforementioned initial inspection checklist. The initial inspection will result with either a pass or fail. If passed, the applicant will continue with the temporary approval process with LAFD inspection as the next step. If DCR finds any deficiencies during the initial inspection, which cannot be immediately corrected, it will be documented on the initial inspection checklist and a copy will be uploaded to the applicant's Acela record within 2 business days of the inspection date. DCR will also prepare and issue an invoice for the additional inspection that must be paid within 10 days of the date of issuance. When the invoice is generated, the applicant will receive a notification from DCR licensing at lacity.org. The invoice will be located in the document section of the Acela record. Payments must be submitted to the Office of Finance. Please note that due to COVID-19, DCR is conducting inspections virtually until further notice. Visit the virtual inspection requirements document on the website for the necessary tools to conduct the inspection. After an applicant passes the initial inspection, information regarding the business premises location is referred to the Los Angeles Fire Department. LAFD will contact the applicant to schedule a date for inspection. Finally, DCR will issue a temporary approval for the commercial cannabis activities applied for, provided that the requirements are met. Documents associated with the applicant's temporary approval will be mailed and added to the applicant's record in the Acela portal. This concludes our video on the temporary approval process. The department will continue to update the website with video tutorials and additional information as available. Please regularly check the website for the latest information. In addition, sign up for our email alert updates by visiting the About menu on the website.
Now that we have reviewed both the pre-application review process and the temporary approval application video tutorials, I'll provide specific information related to the Phase 3 Retail Round 1 application process. Next slide. In order to participate in the Phase 3 Retail Round 1 temporary approval application process, a Phase 3 Round 1 applicant must have been determined eligible for further processing, consistent with Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 104.06.1B6 or 104.06.1B7. The Phase 3 Retail Round 1 determination of eligibility process will conclude when all outstanding fees are paid. If an invoice is not paid within 10 calendar days, the application is deemed abandoned and DCR will invoice another Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicant from the list. Once all 200 Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants have been identified, the process will formally close. Only the 200 Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants that received a determination of eligibility for further processing pursuant to LAMC Section 104.06.1B6 or 104.06.1B7 and timely paid all applicable application fees will be eligible to submit a temporary approval application. The temporary approval process will mirror the process that was just displayed in the videos. However, applicants will be able to also upload the additional documents that would have been originally submitted as part of the pre-application review process. Applicants are authorized to request a business premises relocation in accordance with Municipal Code Section 104.03E1. Applicants will also be able to submit other modification requests outlined by the municipal code as part of the temporary approval process. The municipal code articulates what types of modification requests can be considered by the department, as well as if the requester has to be an applicant or a licensee. Certain modification requests will only be considered for licensees. For instance, an applicant shall not be permitted to amend its application to remove or replace the individual owner who is the social equity individual applicant. Under the old version of the law, this restriction was listed under Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 104.06.1G. Under current law, this language can be found under Municipal Code Section 104.03E2. As amended, current law does allow Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants to request a change to the business premises address listed on the application, consistent with Municipal Code Section 104.03E1 Roman numeral 2. Social equity applicants must comply with equity share requirements. DCR will review all relevant application information. DCR's review is for licensing purposes only. DCR will reject equity share documents that clearly violate the equity share requirements, and applicants will be required to resubmit compliant documents, or the application may be deemed abandoned or denied. DCR will not be guaranteeing or certifying that any private agreement meets the equity share requirements, and it won't be actively policing disputes between owners who claim that their agreements are being enforced or carried out in violation with the equity share requirements. DCR may investigate certain complaints, but any adverse action or violation would be taken against the person applying for the license or in receipt of the license. Egregious violations may result in the denial of an application or revocation of a license. DCR will not resolve disputes between owners. That's for courts, arbitrators, and mediators. Applicants that successfully complete the temporary approval application process will receive temporary approval to engage in commercial cannabis activity within the city. Next slide. Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants may begin completing the required forms for a temporary approval application process. These forms can be found on the DCR website. DCR sent a communication to the initial 100 Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants eligible for further processing to confirm site control or allowed them to register a notice of intent to relocate. These Phase 3 Round 1 retail applicants will have an opportunity to submit modification requests with their temporary approval applications. Additional information will be released later this month. On October 20th, 2020, Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants may submit the required forms through DCR's licensing portal. Next slide, please. On this slide, we've done a markup of the temporary approval workflow that was shared at the last commission meeting. All phase 3 retail round 1 applicants are starting under the temporary approval workflow, and they're starting at the second box. They have already been deemed eligible for further processing. All phase 3 retail round 1 applicants will be required to submit the information, documents, and forms to get through both the pre-application review as well as temporary approval process. All of these forms may be updated from what was originally submitted on September 3rd of 2019. Phase 3 retail round 1 applicants have the opportunity to move through this process at their own pace. For applicants that already have site control and have not made any modifications or changes to owners, equity share documents, or anything else, they will be able to submit documents when the process opens, and we will immediately begin to review those documents for completeness. For applicants that have either lost site control or they have to request a modification to their business structure or other forms of documentation that were previously submitted, those applicants will be provided sufficient time to either make business decisions such as securing a new compliant location or revising their equity share documents or putting together an entity to pursue the license. We do know that several of the entities that were pursuing licenses last September have either been dissolved or they have been converted into another entity type. Folks will have an opportunity to make changes to the business entity identified on the original application later on in this process. Once all of the required documents have been submitted and DCR has deemed those documents complete, DCR will verify local compliance underway with the state. That would allow the state agency to move forward with their licensing process. It's very important for folks to understand that when you submit an application to the state and the state reaches out to the department, we're given a window of time to provide a response. If you are unable to move through the application process such that your application documents have been deemed complete, we will not verify compliance with the state. And that may result in your state license or application being denied. After we have verified that all of the documents are complete, applicants will be scheduled for a pre-licensing inspection, both with the department as well as the fire department. Once we have completed our inspections, all applicable documents, including copies of the state licenses and indemnification agreements, have been submitted. DCR will submit a notification of temporary approval, and the applicant will receive a temporary license to operate a retail storefront business. DCR has authorized overtime to process all of the pending phase 3 retail round 1 applications as expeditiously as possible. We will be working evenings and weekends to ensure that applicants are able to move through this process as they provide the information to the department. We do have sufficient resources at this time to ensure that applications will be processed in a timely manner. Next slide, please. Specifically for the initial 100 phase 3 retail round 1 applicants, you must submit a temporary approval application in order to receive temporary approval. All of the forms and documents required for the temporary approval process and the forms required for the pre-application review process must be submitted with your temporary approval application. Each document will need to be uploaded as a separate document or form via DCR's licensing portal. DCR will email a list of all required documents and forms to phase 3 retail round 1 applicants determined eligible for further processing. Next slide, please. For the additional 100 phase 3 retail round 1 temporary approval applicants, Pursuant to Municipal Code Section 104.06.1B7, DCR is processing the next 100 applicants from the list published by DCR titled Phase 3 Retail Round 1 Submissions, dated September 3rd, 2019, 10 a.m. to September 17th, 2019, 10 a.m. Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants deemed ineligible for further processing due to a community plan area having reached undue concentration on or after September 3rd, 2019, or due to sensitive uses created by a Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicant were included in the review for the next 100 applicants. Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants that were deemed ineligible for any other reason, such as proximity to a daycare center, park, due to zoning issues, incomplete or missing documents, were not included in the review for the next 100 applicants. DCR sent notice to all Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants that were letting them know that the department began processing the next 100 applicants in September. Next slide, please. DCR began invoicing the additional Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants on September 22nd, 2020. This process will conclude after timely payment is received for all 100 additional Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants. As previously stated, any applicant that fails to pay their invoice within 10 calendar days will have their application deemed abandoned, and DCR will invoice another applicant from the list. Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants in the additional 100 will have an opportunity to submit modification requests with their temporary approval application. Additional information will be released later this month. Beginning on October 20th, 2020, the additional 100 Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants may submit a temporary approval application through DCR's licensing portal. Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants are not required to submit their temporary approval application on October 20th. So for any of the applicants, whether they are part of the first 100 or the second 100, you do not have to submit your temporary approval application until all of your forms or documents are complete. If you need to request a modification from the department, you will have an opportunity to submit those modification requests and seek approval prior to submitting your temporary approval application. The additional 100 applicants will follow the same process as the initial eligible 100 applicants. Next slide, please. At this time, I will discuss the Phase 3 delivery, distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, and testing application process, and how the pre-application review process and the temporary approval process apply to both application processes respectively. The department will begin accepting applications for Phase 3 delivery and non-retail licenses, including distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, and testing laboratories on October 20th, 2020. Next slide, please. On October 5th, 2020, the Department of Cannabis Regulation posted a notice on its website pursuant to Municipal Code Section 104.06.1E2 and 104.06.1F2. The notice stated that on Tuesday, October 20th, 2020 at 2 p.m., DCR will begin accepting commercial cannabis license applications for delivery, distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, and testing labs. The application process is only available online through the DCR online portal. The application processing period refers to the date and time that applicants will be able to access the application on the DCR online portal based on the universal clock maintained by Excella. Applicants will be able to log into the portal prior to the application processing period. All applicants are required to first complete the pre-application review process and after being deemed eligible for further processing for one or more license types, they will be allowed to complete the temporary approval application process. Both processes are required in order to receive temporary approval to operate a commercial cannabis business. All applicants will be issued invoices for the pre-application review process and temporary approval application process based on the fees outlined in Municipal Code Section 104.19A. All applicants can prepare for both the pre-application review process and temporary approval application process ahead of time by visiting DCR's website to review related application procedures and resources. Next slide, please. On these two slides, or on this slide, we have an illustration of both the pre-application review process as well as the temporary approval workflow process. The pre-application fee is $597. The temporary approval application fee is $5,720 per commercial cannabis activity. Please review all of the relevant information contained in the pre-application bulletin, as well as the temporary approval bulletin before submitting your application through the licensing portal. For folks that are submitting for the pre-application review process, you do not have to have site control through an executed lease or a property deed when you submit your pre-application review. Pre-applicants are only required to provide some form of legal right to occupy. For folks that do have an executed lease or a property deed, that will satisfy that requirement. However, if you have not made the business decision to secure a property, you can provide a landlord attestation, a tentative agreement between the landlord and you as the applicant based on receiving a determination of eligibility from the Department of Cannabis Regulation, or other form of document that provides a legal right to occupy the proposed business location. The purpose of the pre-application review process is to give prospective applicants a peace of mind that their proposed business premises location is compliant with the requirements of the municipal code. And it's intended to reduce the barrier of entry for applicants seeking that assurance. The $597 fee is charged one time to cover the review for the proposed business premises location, and it is not charged per activity. One of the other important things to note as part of the pre-application review process, applicants are required to submit documents related to the primary personnel and owners associated with the application. However, individual social equity applicants do have the ability to go through the pre-application review process as sole proprietors. As a sole proprietor, you may be the only primary personnel or owner associated with your application record. As you go through this process and you pay your application fees, are issued a BTRC number for your proposed business entity, that information can be modified and updated as part of the temporary approval workflow process. So if you are a social equity individual applicant that has not yet formed a business entity, has not yet identified a business premises location and secured that location either through an executed lease or through purchasing the property, you can still move through this pre-application review process, get assurances that the location you would like to operate at is compliant. And then at a later date, when you submit your temporary approval application, you will be able to update that application to add a legal business entity as well as other owners, as well as provide documentations associated with your proposed business location. Social equity applicants are also able to submit pre-application reviews for multiple locations. So if there's multiple locations that you're looking at, you can go ahead and submit a pre-application for each of those locations and pay the corresponding $597 fee and figure out which location works best for you and meets your business needs before executing a lease or purchasing the property. And then if you choose to only move forward at one of the locations, you can choose to move forward with that location by moving your pre-application, once deemed eligible, through the temporary approval workflow process. And you can abandon any of the pre-application review records that were submitted that you decide not to move forward with without having to pay any additional fees. Once applicants have moved through the pre-application review process and moved into the temporary approval process, they will have a period of time to go ahead and collect all of the forms, make all of the business decisions necessary to execute the forms for completeness, and then submit their temporary approval application. Once a temporary approval application is submitted, an invoice will be generated and must be paid within 10 calendar days. So if your pre-application record has had its status updated to eligible for further processing or deemed eligible, you do not immediately have to submit your temporary approval application. You will be provided a period of time to make business decisions, execute agreements, identify additional owners, file any business ownership paperwork you need to file with the Secretary of State to create your business entity before submitting your temporary approval application. However, once you do submit your temporary approval application, you will be required to pay the associated application fees within 10 calendar days, as well as upload all of the required documents as part of that process. A finding of local authorization will be made once DCR has deemed all of the temporary approval required documents complete. When an applicant applies to the state will contact DCR. DCR must communicate a finding of local authorization underway to the state agency within a specific period of time, or the state agency will deny the applicant's state application. If you submit an application to the state before all of your temporary approval documents are deemed complete, you risk having the state deny your state application. Next slide, please. Please note that initially, the delivery application process will only be available to previously verified social equity individual applicants. Applications for distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, and testing laboratories will be available to all interested applicants. Information regarding how to become a verified social equity individual applicant under the expanded eligibility verification criteria pursuant to Municipal Code Section 104.20B will be provided at a later date this calendar year. Upon verification, eligible applicants will be able to submit commercial cannabis license applications for delivery, as this processing period is indefinite. On October 20th, DCR will not be accepting applications for cultivation, retail storefront, or volatile manufacturing. Next slide, please. I will now discuss information related to the public convenience or necessity request process. Next slide. We will begin our discussion of the PCN information with a video tutorial. Next slide, please.
The Department of Cannabis Regulation, also known as DCR, is transforming its website into a more user-friendly online information and resource center. We have comprehensively redesigned our website to streamline, simplify, and make more accessible information related to licensing and the social equity program. This video tutorial will provide prospective applicants information regarding the public convenience or necessity application procedure, also referred to as the PCN application procedure, and will show how to navigate through our website to find related information. This video will show new processes, procedures, forms, and resources that the department will publish to the website as available. The forms can be completed online. In addition, these forms and documents must be submitted via DCR's licensing portal, Acela. Please do not submit any documents via email. DCR may accept electronic signatures on forms unless the form specifically requires a notarized signature. Please download the materials included on the website as you move through the application process. These documents are intended to guide you through the application process. Regardless of whether you use the bulletins, the department encourages you to conduct your own due diligence and research, or seek legal counsel if you need additional assistance. Applicants seeking to engage in retail commercial cannabis activity in a community plan area, or CPA, that is unduly concentrated are required to file a request that the City Council find that the approval of the license application would serve a public convenience or necessity supported by evidence in the record. To begin, visit our redesigned website at cannabis.lacity.org. You will notice our new menu bar at the top of our website. Here, click on the licensing menu and select Application Procedures and Resources. This page contains all of the information needed to go through the various licensing application processes. Let's review the PCN section. Under the PCN section's general information, we have included relevant Los Angeles Municipal Code sections. The department has also included a list of community plan areas, or CPAs, that have reached undue concentration. We will continue to update this list as additional CPAs become unduly concentrated. This section also contains a link to the City Council standards to be used in their assessment and determination of a PCN finding. Following the general information, the department has included the process workflow, as well as links to the information bulletin and forms for the specific process. The bulletins are also located under the licensing menu's Application, Forms, and Documents page. Please review the PCN Information and Procedure Bulletin before you begin the PCN application process. This also provides links to all of the forms that are required to be submitted and step-by-step instructions. This is the PCN Information and Procedure Bulletin. The information included in this bulletin, in conjunction with the PCN workflow, provides general information, procedures, and requirements for an applicant to submit a PCN request to the City Council. The bulletin outlines applicant responsibilities, DCR actions, City Clerk actions, and City Council actions, along with links to forms associated with the PCN process and the instructions to file a PCN request. Now, we will review the PCN Information and Procedure Bulletin. It includes relevant information and LAMC code sections. As mentioned, it also outlines various responsibilities of applicants, the department, City Clerk, and City Council. First, let's review the applicant's responsibilities. Reach out to key stakeholders as early as possible in the process. Perform due diligence to verify that the location of the business premises complies with LAMC Section 105.02A1. Complete and submit the public convenience or necessity finding request form to DCR. Pay the PCN filing fee and the written notice fee. After the city clerk assigns a council file to the PCN request, complete and send the stakeholder input request form to key stakeholders. Submit any additional documentation in support of the PCN request to DCR prior to the city council meeting. Subscribe to the council file to receive notifications from the city clerk related to the PCN request. Now, let's review DCR's actions in the PCN process. Review the PCN request. Transmit PCN request to the city clerk within 30 days of the PCN filing fee payment. Provide written notice in accordance with LAMC Section 104.05 B1. Transmit any additional documentation from the applicant to the city clerk. Communicate council's final action to the applicant. The city clerk will issue a council file number to the PCN and will inform the city council of the processing deadlines. After the overview of responsibilities, the bulletin outlines the instructions to file a PCN request. The first step of the process is for applicants to complete the PCN request form and submit it to DCR via DCR's online licensing portal, which is the Acela Citizen Access Portal or Acela ACA portal. Please visit our Apply for a License page for video tutorials to assist applicants through the various application submittal and renewal processes. The PCN request form is linked inside the PCN Information and Procedure Bulletin here. Some of the information needed to complete this form can be found in the city's Zone Information and Map Access System, or ZEMAS. The ZEMAS application provides zoning-related information for specific properties. To access ZEMAS, visit zemas.lacity.org. Here, you can enter a business premise location. You can also find the community plan area and council district under jurisdictional information. Use this information to complete the remaining information related to the proposed business, including the floor area of the business and proposed days and hours of operation. The city also has the Neighborhood Information Tool, which can assist applicants with information needed to complete the associated forms. To visit this website, visit neighborhoodinfo.lacity.org. Along with the business premises location information, the PCN finding request form requires applicants to explain how the commercial cannabis activity will serve the public convenience or necessity and explain how their request meets one or more of the City Council's public convenience or necessity standards pursuant to the City Council's adopted resolution. These standards can be accessed directly from the PCN request form. Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 104.03A4 also requires that the applicant engage with and seek input from stakeholders within or near the community plan area where the proposed business premises will be located. The information related to the Neighborhood Council and LAPD division within the area of the business premises can be found in ZEMAS or Neighborhood Info, which we've shown before. Once the PCN request form is completed and signed by the applicant and the property owner or owners, or their authorized representative if necessary, it can be submitted via DCR's online licensing portal, also referred to as the Acela ACA portal, by visiting aca.acela.com/LADCR. For information related to this process, please view our How to Submit a PCN Request in Acela video. Now, let's navigate back to the PCN workflow. When DCR receives the PCN request form, it will generate an invoice for the PCN filing fee and the written notice fee, which can be found in the Documents section of the Acela PCN application record. After DCR confirms timely payment of the invoice with the Office of Finance, DCR will complete its review of the PCN request to verify compliance with the zoning requirements and sensitive use restrictions in accordance with LAMC Section 105.02A1. Within 30 days of the payment of the invoice, DCR will transmit the PCN request to the city clerk. The city clerk will then assign a council file number to the PCN request, which can be used to track its status. DCR will publish a written notice on its website as required by LAMC 104.05C4 within 10 days of the city clerk's receipt of the PCN request with a link to the council file. It is the responsibility of the applicant to subscribe to the council file to receive notifications from the city clerk related to their PCN request. Instructions on how to subscribe to the council file are provided in the PCN Information and Procedure Bulletin. By subscribing to the council file, applicants can receive updates related to the committee or city council meeting where the PCN request will be considered. To subscribe to the council file and to get notifications, go to lacouncilfile.com. Here, you'll be able to search for a council file or subscribe to a council file. Again, it is the responsibility of the applicant to subscribe to the council file to receive notifications from the city clerk related to the PCN request. In addition, as required by LAMC Section 104.05C4, DCR will provide written notice in accordance with LAMC Section 104.05B1 within 10 days of the city clerk receiving the PCN request form. The notice will contain the link to the council file with instructions on how to subscribe for notifications. Once a council file number is assigned by the city clerk, the applicant must complete and send the stakeholder input request form to each of the 4 organizations listed in the PCN request form. Let's pull it up now. Those 4 organizations include the Neighborhood Council, the Police Department Division, Chamber of Commerce, and the Substance Abuse Intervention, Prevention, and Treatment Organization. It is highly recommended and encouraged that the applicant reach out to these organizations early in the process, even before mailing this form, in order to allow ample time for them to provide written input to the City Council. This form notifies stakeholders that they may submit any comments and/or documents to the City Council pertaining to their request at lacouncilcomment.com. Once all of the forms are complete and submitted, the city clerk will publish the agenda prior to the committee and council meetings in which the applicant's PCN request will be considered. The city council will either approve or deny the request within 90 days of the city clerk's receipt of the PCN request. This date is noted on the agenda as the last day for council action. If the city council does not act on this request within 90 calendar days of the city clerk's date of receipt, the request will be denied by operation of law and the application will not be processed by DCR. If the city council approves the request, the applicant may submit a pre-application review request to DCR via DCR's online licensing portal. The system will require that a council file number be entered in order to proceed. The city council must approve the request in order for applicants to pursue commercial cannabis activities in community plan areas that have reached undue concentration. Applicants seeking to submit a request for other application types that are not limited by concentration may continue to the pre-application review request procedure without needing to complete the PCN request process. This concludes our video on the PCN request procedure. The department will continue to update the website with video tutorials and additional information as available. Please regularly check the website for the latest information. In addition, sign up for our email alert updates by visiting the About menu on the website.
First, I'd like to reiterate a point made in the video. The PCN process is a means to determine whether or not a prospective applicant located in a community plan area subject to a finding of undue concentration is eligible to submit an application to the department. The PCN process is not appropriate for areas that have not reached undue concentration. Any request submitted for a community plan area that has not reached undue concentration will be rejected as ineligible. A PCN request is not an application for licensure to engage in commercial cannabis activity. Currently, there are 6 community plan areas that have reached undue concentration. Those community plan areas are Central City North, Harbor Gateway, Sherman Oaks Studio City, Sun Valley, Latuna Canyon, and Venice. To date, 69 prospective applicants have submitted an intent to file a PCN request for a community plan area that is considered unduly concentrated. No later than December 1st, 2020, those 69 applicants who had submitted an intent to file will be given an opportunity to submit a completed PCN request form through DCR's licensing portal. Next slide, please. On this slide, we have a modified workflow where we're showing where those 69 applicants will be once they have submitted their PCN request form. Once the forms are submitted through DCR's licensing portal, the form will be reviewed for completeness, and if all of the fields are filled, DCR will issue an invoice for the PCN application fee. The PCN requester will have 10 calendar days to pay the required fees. Upon payment, DCR will review the form for compliance with sections of the municipal code related to zoning and distancing from sensitive uses. And if DCR does not find any immediate reason to deem the application or the PCN request ineligible, it will be transmitted to the city clerk within 30 calendar days. Once the city clerk receives the PCN request, it will be assigned a council file number, and then council will have 90 days from the date of receipt to consider the PCN request. Any PCN request that is not approved or denied by the 90th day will be deemed denied as a matter of law. Next slide, please. In order to ensure the responsible administration of the public convenience or necessity process, DCR is piloting the implementation of the PCN process with those existing individuals who originally submitted an intent to file. DCR will send an email to the 69 social equity individual applicants eligible to complete and submit the PCN request form later this year. Those 69 social equity individual applicants will have an opportunity to submit their completed PCN request form no later than December 1st, 2020. DCR will review those forms for completeness, issue an invoice to the requester. The requester will have 10 days to pay, and then DCR will have 30 days to complete its review of the PCN form before transmitting it to the city clerk. DCR anticipates that may begin to transmit PCN requests to the city clerk in January of 2021. Under no circumstance will DCR begin transmitting files to the city clerk before January 1st, 2021. Upon receipt of the PCN request, the city council will have 90 days to consider the request. Next slide, please. My apologies. Can we go back one slide? DCR is not currently accepting new PCN request. The department will begin accepting PCN requests from other prospective applicants for areas that have reached undue concentration in 2021. Prospective applicants are encouraged to research the proposed business premises location and begin to engage and seek written input from key stakeholders in advance of completing and submitting the PCN request form. This concludes the information regarding the PCN process. I will now pass the presentation back to Director Packer to conclude today's Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Assistant Executive Director Colleen. Commissioners and members of the public, thank you for receiving today's Executive Director's report. As you can see from the information contained in this report, we will be reaching significant milestones in our licensing program, particularly beginning on October 20th, with the ability for Phase 3 Retail Round 1 applicants determined eligible for further processing to begin to submit information necessary to move through the temporary approval process, as well as beginning opportunities for new applicants to participate in commercial cannabis activity licensing when we begin Phase 3 delivery, distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, and testing application processing, which will also take place and begin on October 20th. As staff have indicated thus far throughout the Executive Director's report, many of the forms, procedures, resources, videos that were shared in today's Executive Director's report can be found on our newly designed website. We encourage members of the public who are interested in the licensing and social equity program to sign up for our email alerts by visiting our website and to stay engaged with us as we continue to make progress. We recognize that as we move forward, we will continue to make improvements to our licensing and social equity program. And as such, we encourage stakeholders to continue to share their feedback and public comment and recommendations, both with us directly, the Department of Cannabis Regulation, with this body, the Cannabis Regulation Commission, with their respective council members, and with City Council leadership. We recognize that this is a collective process in order to move this forward. With that, I want to thank my staff and this commission and members of the public for receiving our report. Thank you. This concludes the Executive Director's report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Packer. I want to thank you and all the staff for putting these videos and this presentation together. There's a lot of detail there. And as you mentioned, a lot of the answers to the questions that I get from stakeholders and community folk, the answers lie in the website. The website has so many resources and so much information. It's a great place to start. So I encourage everyone, especially with the revamped website, which I'm very excited about. I hope that you'll take full advantage of the resources provided therein as we move forward in the licensing process. At this time, I want to open up the floor to my fellow commissioners for any questions or deliberations.
This is
I'm sorry, go ahead, Victor.
Yeah, so Commissioner Narrow, I have one question. There was a slide, I forgot the number of the slide. Well, first, thank you for this presentation. I could see all, even the videos, I can see a tremendous amount of work that went into it. So I really want to commend Director Packard and the entire staff. I have one question about one particular slide. We had the cost of the $570 and $5,720 for the licensing cost of the licensing fees. I do have a question. Like, if you have a social equity applicant that is able to, secure the location and all the other, start up the business, but is in need of financial assistance, like a program, like some kind of financial program to help that individual create the resources needed to reach that $5,720 threshold. I know in the past we talked about there was other opportunities to create these programs based on the funding that we will receive from the state of California to create these assistance programs. Can you address that?
Sure, and I appreciate the question, Commissioner Naro. Staff, can you please go back to the slide that Commissioner Naro referenced? While we're queuing back to that particular slide, Commissioner Naro, part of what I want to make sure that this body is aware of and that members of the public are aware of, and this was part of what our Social Equity Program Director, Dr. Amani Brown, had mentioned during the beginning of today's presentation, is that the City of Los Angeles has been awarded resources through, in particular, 2 grants that we've received from the state of California to support our social equity program. Part of what Dr. Brown had walked folks through during her portion of the program was essentially an acknowledgement that while the announcements of these awards were made late in 2019 and early in 2020, just some of the bureaucratic process, it wasn't until later on this summer that we have received those resources essentially into the city coffers. And part of what Dr. Brown has been leading on behalf of the department is working with those state agencies to make sure that we can put those resources to good use. And part of what Dr. Brown had mentioned was that of the resources that we've received from the state of California for our social equity program, part of what we're going to be using those resources to develop is a financial grant program. And I apologize, staff, can we actually go to the slide that references the financial grant program that's a part of the social equity program? I think that particular slide is more spot on to Commissioner Naro's question. But Commissioner Naro, we will be making $5 million of the resources that we've received from the state available to social equity applicants via direct financial assistance. We have already made the decision that these resources are going to be provided as grants. We're not going to be providing these resources as loans and asking folks to pay them back. But part of what we're going through right now, and I know that we're not the only jurisdiction that's going through this because we're in communication with other regulators as well, but there's a heap of bureaucracy that we have to go through, both with the state agencies to be able to begin to spend those resources. But in particular, what we're working on right now is contracting with a qualified third-party consultant who is going to help us to both develop and administer this financial grant program. So the solicitation process is ongoing. We are navigating through that bureaucracy, and as we see on the slide, we intend to make this program available to social equity applicants for the first time later on this calendar year. The financial grant program is new. It is a product of a recommendation from the Department of Cannabis Regulation. We recommended that the city create a financial grant program in our policy reports that we transmitted over the summer. And this particular policy, amongst others, that was adopted. And so the ordinance says that the department shall establish a financial grant program, that the requirements of the financial grant program will be established in the rules and regs. And so as we continue to contract with this third party, this qualified third party consultant, we will be developing the requirements and inserting those into the rules and regs. And again, we're still navigating through the bureaucracy, but we're doing everything that we can to make those resources available to applicants as soon as possible. We recognize that some applicants, of course, will already have expenses. We're intending to create a process that allows folks to recoup some of those expenses, but I want to be very transparent on the record right now in articulating that I know that we have much more demand for resources than there are resources available. Right now, to date, we have 1,600 verified social equity applicants. And even if we made the entire $7.8 million available to those 1,600 verified applicants, everyone would walk away with under $5,000. And so we're trying to be intentional about which qualified social equity applicants we make those resources available to and when. But Dr. Brown is leading that effort on behalf of the department. And we're doing everything that we can to make those resources available to applicants before the end of the calendar year. As Dr. Brown mentioned, due to the grant term itself, we only have a year to spend those resources. And so we are just as eager to get those resources out the door. We are hoping that the state of California continues those resources in their budget for the next fiscal year. However, we know due to COVID-19, there are going to be a number of challenges associated with budgets. We see the benefit of investing in our social equity applicants, not only despite COVID-19, but in particular because of COVID-19. So hopefully, as we continue to give updates at future commission meetings, we can share progress on that particular initiative.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Brown, for this great work. Thank you. Thank you.
Robert, may I ask a question?
Of course.
All right. I just have a question related to of the stakeholders that spoke, asked questions, and I just wondered if there was a way to get a quick answer for them. The first one was a stakeholder that made a request related to the fact that he was a PCN applicant or wanted to be a PCN applicant. I wasn't quite sure which it was, but the fact that due to the fact that he didn't have a council member right now, where should he go to submit his or get support for his PCN application? And so I did not think that would probably be addressed in the general information on the website. So if we could just clear that up, Kat, I'd really appreciate it.
So I, without knowing specifically who the applicant is or whether or not they're one of the 69, the response is really going to be dependent on whether or not they are one of those existing 69 PC applicants or individuals who have submitted an intent to file a PCN request. If so, what we communicated today was that no later than December 1st, those folks will begin to be able to submit information, specifically the PCN request form. If you are one of these 69 individual entities, what we are encouraging you to do right now is to begin the process of engaging with the key stakeholders that are referenced in the ordinance, because due to ordinance amendments, PCN applicants are required to seek written engagement, written feedback from key stakeholders before they move forward. We anticipate that through the implementation of the PCN process, and this is part of the reason why we're calling it a pilot, we're intentionally trying to keep it at least initially to the 69 applicants before essentially opening the spigot for new applicants to come through. This is a new process that's going to involve multiple agencies, the department, the city clerk's office, council offices, et cetera. So we're in the process of coordinating this effort. And I do anticipate that by the time we begin to move forward with the application processing, this particular applicant, if you know, assuming that they are one of the 69, they will be able to engage with the incoming council member on this particular item. One of the things that we're doing over the course of, and we're actually starting these meetings next week, is that we will be organizing meetings with every single council office. DCR will be holding meetings with all 15 council offices, essentially to explain much of the same information that we've made available today to the commission and to the public, to the council offices, to inform them of our process, but also to remind them of what their particular actions and responsibilities are in relation to the PCN process. We will be and have already established a meeting with Council District 14 to brief staff in that office, and I imagine that the incoming council member will be brought up to speed.
Thank you very much, Kat. I really appreciate that answer. The other question was, I hope, just a simple, fast answer, which is a property needed if you're requesting a delivery license?
I want to be very clear. You're not going to be able to get a license to engage in commercial cannabis activity without a property. Property is kind of essential to the licensing scheme, both in the state of California and in the city of Los Angeles. You're not going to be able to get a state license without having a property. And of course, we require applicants to go ahead and get their state license before they receive formal authorization to engage in commercial cannabis activity at the local level. But what's important to note, and what I am going to ask folks to do, is to go back to that slide that shows the pre-application review process side by side with the temporary approval workflow. Can we toggle to that particular slide fairly quickly? DCR staff, I don't see the slide moving. Are folks toggling to the corresponding slide that I'm asking for? Rocky, I'm waiting for you, looking for the slide that shows the pre-application review process side by side with temporary approval. I think we just passed it. Got quite a few slides. This it should be towards the latter half of the presentation. There we go. So, Commissioner Villa, part of what Assistant Executive Director Jason Colleen had described was that the pre-application review process is new. Folks previously, both the temporary approval process and the pre-application review process are new for new applicants. But the purpose of the pre-application review process, and I think the value that the pre-application review process brings to applicants who have experienced and shared concern before, is that through the pre-application review process, this is the means in which applicants will be able to verify that a particular property is compliant. And so you do not need to have secured a property when going through the pre-application review process. You can essentially use the pre-application review process to determine if particular locations are viable. Now, this is going to be particularly important because come, for example, October 20th, let's say that you are a social equity applicant who is interested in delivery, and you don't have a property yet, and you don't have a business entity yet, and you're not quite prepared to have a business entity yet or to go through the business formation process. But you want to look into particular locations and make sure you get verified as a social equity applicant first. You could use the pre-application review process to check the viability of a location that could be used for delivery. And then when you are prepared to submit a temporary approval application, you can go ahead and submit a temporary approval application having a property. Because there are not limits on the number of delivery licenses that are available, there aren't limits to the number of distribution, non-volatile manufacturing, or testing licenses. What this is going to allow folks to do is to wait until they are ready to move forward with the application process. And so if you don't have a property, you don't have to rush on October 20th to get an application in the door. You can start the pre-application review process as you're ready. And then at a later date, after having completed that pre-application review process, you can come back to the department with an entity with all of the rest of the information. And what I would encourage members of the public to do, and of course this will be a business decision, but because the process is laid out for folks, both in the procedures and in the videos, folks can make sure that they are prepared to progress through the entire temporary approval process before they go ahead and apply for the temporary approval process. And I think that that is going to allow us to kind of mitigate some of the concerns that we saw with the last application process, with people continuing to pay rent as they waited to be able to move forward. It's important to note that what people went through in September of last year was a determination of eligibility for further processing. And this is something different. When people apply for delivery on October 20th, they will be first completing the pre-application review process to make sure that the owners, primary personnel, and property are compliant. And then they will be able to progress through the temporary approval process. So Commissioner Villa, I know that wasn't a short answer, but I did want to be able to point out, just because this is new, and we have received questions as far from applicants as well, as to whether or not they need to have a property to begin this process. And the answer is no, you do not have to have a property to begin this process. As Jason said, you can move forward in the pre-application process just having a landowner attestation. You don't have to have a lease or a property deed. But of course, before you receive authorization to engage in commercial cannabis activity, you will have to secure a property because all of the application review is site specific.
Thank you so much for that clarification. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And the work that's been done on the website is absolutely amazing. And you and your entire department are just really need to be commended for it. So thank you for your efforts, and thank you for the transparency that's been enhanced so much by the improvement to the website. Thank you very much, Director Packer.
Thank you, Commissioner Villa.
Commissioner Mason, did you have any questions or have any comments? Okay, while we're waiting for Commissioner Mason, Ms. Packer, I had a couple questions. These are just—
I was muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, were you there?
Yes, I was muted. I didn't realize.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, President Ahn. Good afternoon,
Sure.
Director Packer. Good afternoon to your staff. Kudos to you for today's presentation and the work that you've done preparing for this meeting. I had a couple of comments. One of them is married, but I wanted to thank you for the update on the stakeholder meeting and community listening sessions. And I look forward to those starting at the before the end of the year. I think they'll go a long way in relieving some of the anxiety that people experience and with the turnaround time and getting information from the department. So I'm glad to see us moving in that direction. During the public comments, someone mentioned that with the delivery licenses being open-ended, it is the end of social equity. And then you also mentioned that there are no limits to the number of delivery licenses, but I'm curious about, I want you to speak to how it's not the end of social equity. And then from my perspective, there are some limitations on the number of licenses because the market has limitations on the number of properties that are available. And since the two are so commingled, there really is a limitation for lack of better terms. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Vice President Mason. I appreciate the question. I was listening as members of the public were giving their public comment. And of course, I think there's a diversity of thought on the issue, but what I'd like to respond to is what the ordinance actually allows and the authority that the department has, and then maybe we can kind of get into opinion. But I want to first respond and articulate, clarify what the ordinance says. So unlike cultivation and retail licenses, where there is a limit on the total number of licenses that can be issued in a particular community plan area, and of course that means that there's a total number of licenses that can be issued citywide. Delivery, distribution, testing, and non-volatile manufacturing do not have similar limitations. And so there is not a a cap in law, let's say, with the number of delivery licenses that can be issued. We've also gotten public comment. I've been able to see letters that have come into, at least one letter that has come into the department thus far, asking whether or not owners had restrictions on the number of licenses that they are able to hold. And there are provisions in our local laws and regulations that say, for example, that one person, the way that we define person is an actual entity or sole proprietor, but that no person can own more than 3 retail licenses. And there is a similar provision for cultivation. No such similar provision exists for delivery. And again, no such provision exists for testing, distribution, or the non-volatile manufacturing. What was recently changed in ordinance, and we're responsible for this particular change, is that we recommended that only social equity applicants have the ability to have their delivery and retail applications processed until January 1st of 2025. So that could be interpreted as some type of at least limitation in the short term, in the sense that you won't have social equity applicants competing with non-social equity applicants. And so we're limited to only the social equity applicants that we have verified. As I had mentioned previously in today's presentation and other presentations, to date, we have about 1,600 social equity applicants who have been verified. Because those are the only individuals who have been verified. Those are the folks who are, according to law, able to apply for delivery to date. I think that the concern is that you could have, the concern that stakeholders are raising is that you could have a social equity applicant owner who could get multiple delivery licenses. And of course, there's not a limit right now, so they could have an unlimited number of delivery licenses. That's the case for, again, non-volatile manufacturing, distribution, and testing. The other thing that's important to note as we kind of just think about what our market actually looks like here in the city of Los Angeles is an acknowledgement that because of the law here in the state of California, anyone who is licensed to engage in delivery in the state of California technically has the authority to engage in delivery here here in the city of Los Angeles. That's the way that the state has interpreted their law. So at least that's the initial comment that I want to be able to provide, Vice President Mason. And if you have further questions, I'll listen and we can go from there.
No, thank you for your answer. That pretty much covers my area of concern. It is unfortunately pretty open-ended, and the state's definition doesn't really help us contain it, but thank you for the clarity. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, it cuts both ways. We had this conversation early on as we were kind of watching the state's interpretation play out. You know, not only can anyone deliver into the city of Los Angeles if they're licensed in the state of California, but it allows anyone who's licensed here in the city of Los Angeles to deliver anywhere into the state of California. What I want to be clear on is that we don't independently have the authority to place a limit on the number of licenses that any one individual owner, delivery licenses that any one particular owner can have. That's not something that we have the authority to change on our own. And so stakeholders who have a concern about this should express those concerns to their individual council member. They can continue to share those concerns with us. We will consider them and relay them to council members as well. But the department does not have the authority to place a limit on the number of delivery licenses that any particular social equity applicant can receive.
Thank you.
Ms. Packer, I had a couple questions. The first one has to do with the, I guess the question is, how much time, if you know, are we going to give folks that are trying to relocate as part of either the first 100 or the second 100? And then the second part of that is, if they are located in a community plan that's hit their undue concentration, do they then have to go through the PCN or can they relocate?
So all requests for business premises relocation, of course, are going to have to comply with the ordinance, and the way that the law was recently amended, it allows folks to relocate, but they have to relocate within their existing community plan area. They're unable to relocate to a community plan area that has not reached undue concentration. And of course, if they want to go to a location that has reached undue concentration, there's a process for that. And that is called the PCN process. And so everyone, I want to talk about these universe of folks as though the phase 3 retail round 1 process has concluded. But let's fast forward a little bit. We've identified who the universe of the 200 phase 3 retail round 1 applicants are who are eligible for further processing. All of those folks will be able to submit requests to relocate. And there's not a time limit on when they will be able to submit their request to relocate. What members of the public and those applicants should know, though, is that people who don't have to go through the relocation process are going to progress through the temporary approval process more quickly. Because essentially on October 20th, as Assistant Executive Director Jason Killeen had mentioned, if you are one of those applicants and you don't need to go through the application modification, you're simply updating your forms and documents, you're going to be able to progress through the temporary approval process at that location. However, there's a different process that folks who have to go through that relocation process are going to have to go through before they start the temporary approval process at that new location. So the department will communicate to the phase 3 retail round 1 applicants specific instructions on how to notify the department on whether or not they have site control, whether or not and even if you do have site control and you're interested in moving, those folks will be able to move through the application modification business premises relocation process. And the folks who don't have to go through that process will simply progress through the temporary approval process. What's going to be important, though, for folks to realize is that it's not just these phase 3 retail round 1 applicants who want to go through the business premises relocation process. And later on this year, we will be allowing phase 1 businesses and phase 2 businesses to go through that relocation process. And so we're trying to do this in a way that allows us to manage the process. We want phase 1 and phase 2 businesses to make sure that they can effectuate their business premises relocation, in particular before they begin the annual licensing process. So we're going to be managing the facilitation of different categories of applicants going through the business premises relocation process at the same time, but that process will start first for the phase 3 retail round 1 applicants determined eligible for further processing. Again, that process, once the ability for those folks to submit the application modification begins, it doesn't end. These folks can technically relocate their business in 2021, but it's just important to note that every single time a business goes through the business premises relocation process, they're going to have to cease operating at one location and then wait until they get their authorization to operate at whatever this next location is.
Okay, So the reason why I ask is there could be a situation where it takes an inordinate amount of time to find a suitable location, but so there's no time pressure for those applicants to find. I guess only in the sense that the sooner they can find a location, they get to plant their flag. But from our department standpoint, there is no quote unquote deadline for them to do so.
No.
Okay, got that. I don't have any other questions. It was a very thorough presentation. I'm going to probably go back and revisit some of the videos that we saw. Any last minute questions from the other commissioners? Okay. Well, with that, I want to again thank all the staff for all your efforts. I want to thank members of the public that are listening and watching from home. And again, I want to encourage you to write the department, write the commission. We do read all of our mail and emails, and that's really how we really get to learn more about the process. And so your input is always welcome and really needed. It just helps us to get better as a commission and as a department. So I just want to continue to encourage you to participate in the process. And we look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. With that, I want to adjourn today's meeting. The time now is 5:16.